It's working. Okay. All right, we're ready to go. So let me introduce you to Pavel Luptak. We're going to be going over the Global Opportunist Handbook about the practice of flag theory. So we're very interested to hear this. And so go ahead, you can take it away, Pavel.
Thanks a lot for the introduction. First, just audio check. Can you hear me correctly?
Yep. Does everyone hear from the back? Yep. We hear you well.
Okay, cool. So firstly, I'm just thinking like an e-read from from Buenos Aires. I'm participating in A few minutes ago, Vitaly Buterin had a presentation. So this is the also like an intro meeting with you. And especially I tried to find the most silent room and with the best connection, but not sure how I really thought about it. Is to be fine, the connection will be fine, and you can try to make a mistake. So let's start. The topic of my presentation is the global opportunist handbook how and where best to decentralize. Maybe I should start with the flag theory, but probably most of you know what does it mean exactly. Flag theory is basically like a theory where each part of your personal and economic life decentralized to different countries. It includes citizenship, permanent residency, tax residency, your international company, bank account, your health insurance. And also, for example, my situation is also like an internet or by mobile operator and digital assets. So in my situation, it's not like a flag theory, it is like a flag practice. So in the following presentation, I'm going to explain because despite the fact that European Union is becoming like a crypto unfriendly destination and regulatory held with high taxes, still, if you have Czech or Slovak or any European passport, you have probably one of the best passports in the world. If you have the US passport, if you're like US passport, you're a US citizen, then your situation should be approved that you are basically tax slave, so you have duties associated with your citizenship and it doesn't matter where you live. If you're like a person and you have like a high income and you are the US citizen, I strongly recommend you to relocate to some better country regarding your citizenship and give up your US citizenship. It's always a good idea to have two passports. For example, Czech citizen, then you have three passports because many times, for example, you're asking for visa in one country and you need to leave your passport and the embassy and you need another passport to travel. So it's a very good idea to have two passports if you want to visit countries like Armenia and Azerbaijan, for example, Israel and Palestine. So it's a good idea to have two different passports. If you have so I'm just saying about two passports from the same country. If you can afford it, or if, for example, some of your parents, grandparents, has or have different citizenship, I strongly recommend you to ask second citizenship by by pension sources. It's always a good idea because more passports you have, more legal protections you have, and you should approach that it's also possible to buy citizenship expect that the price began beginning from 200,000 Czech crowns, 200,000 euros or dollars on Czech crowns. Many people ask me how it is possible to obtain some extra citizenship in the most easy and cheapest way. If you speak or if you are willing to learn Portuguese, I strongly recommend you check Brazilian citizenship by naturalization. What does it mean exactly? If you are willing to move to Brazil just for 1 year, have a baby there, it doesn't matter if with your European or Brazilian wife, your child immediately obtains citizenship rather than the country. And it's born in from Brazilian citizenship. So this is probably the most easy and the cheapest way that takes just 1 year to obtain the citizenship of another country like Brazil. It's almost free, you just need to learn Portuguese. Let's move. Permanent residency. Permanent residency, so it is very difficult to keep up your citizenship, for example, or obtain new citizenship, but it's quite easy to keep up your permanent residency, for example, in Czech Republic, and obtain new permanent residency, for example, in Panama, or Uruguay. So the thing is, where should I choose my permanent residence? You should be aware that if you want to do some tax savings or tax optimization, you should think about permanent residency in the country where is territorial taxation. What does it mean, territorial taxation? Territorial taxation means that more fair way of paying taxes and obligations from your foreign income. For example, if you become a tax resident of Panama or Paraguay, these countries, like most Central African countries, you have an obligation to pay taxes only from your global income. In this situation, you should be explicitly be aware of the fact that you cannot live in any other country, for example, European country, more than 6 months, because when you live in any country more than 6 months, it doesn't matter if you have their residency or not, you are automatically becoming tax resident of the given country. So from this point of view, no European country is good for permanent residency because no European country offers territorial taxation. So I strongly recommend you to find a good country, for example, in Central America or in South America. There are many countries with territorial taxation in the world, but it is quite difficult to obtain permanent residency in these different countries. For example, in Panama, you have to buy property now for at least $1,000 US. In Costa Rica, it's the same, and then you buy the property or you have to invest in so-called deforestation project, which basically putting your money directly to giving your money directly to the Costa Rican government. So as you can see, this is like the map of international taxation. Maybe I should provide a very brief explanation. All countries which are big, like the US, for example, are countries where you have your tax duties associated with your citizenship. You can see that there's the US, and there's another country which is Eritrea, a country like north of Ethiopia. When you're a citizen of this country, basically it means it doesn't matter where you live most of the time, you still have tax duties towards your tax office. In the case of the US, it's the IRS. Then you have a lot of dark blue countries, like most European countries, as you can see. Dark blue countries means that you have the duty to pay your taxes for your on worldwide income. So it doesn't matter where you earn money, And then you have these light blue countries, and all these light blue countries are countries where you want to have the presidency because they offer more for very pro taxation, and in these countries you pay taxes only from your local income. I did quite comprehensive comparison of multiple countries, and I found out that the best country for the permanent residency or temporary residency now in these days is Paraguay. I'm going to explain you why I think it's Paraguay. Because Paraguay, unlike Panama or Uruguay or Costa Rica, you don't need to buy any property or rent property to become a resident. This is really cool. You don't need to make any investment, which is also very cool. So from this point of view, obtaining the residency in Paraguay, the cheapest solution. There is also 0% tax for anything, any income from abroad. For example, 0% tax on crypto funds outside of Paraguay. So for crypto people, especially European or American crypto people, this is like a really good destination. The thing is that the conditions are changing over time. So for example, now in Paraguay, 2 weeks ago, a new immigration legislation was approved, which means it's not possible immediately to obtain permanent residency in Paraguay. You have to obtain firstly temporary residency, and in a period of 6 up to 2 years, you can ask for permanent residency. So still, it's better because you don't need to be physically there, like for example in Uruguay, and you don't need to buy property, like for example in Panama or Costa Rica. Okay, tax residency. The thing is that like a good citizenship usually doesn't help you with the taxes. You need to have a good tax residency, and the question is how tax residency is exactly defined. Usually, in most cases, tax residency is a place where you live more than 6 months. Some countries, they have, for example, 3 months, but most countries have 6 months. So if you live in any country more than 6 months, you are usually automatically a resident of the country. If you travel a lot, like my situation, my case, I'm traveling all the time, then the tax residency is place where you have, and usually permanent temporary residency is the place where you have permanent residency. So for example, in my situation, because I don't stay in any country more than 6 months, and because I don't have any central view for my interest out of Paraguay, and I have only permanent residency in Panama and Paraguay, it means that my tax residency is physically in Paraguay. I was officially registered with the Paraguay tax office. So, especially if you travel a lot, you can really save a lot of money just having good tax residency, for example, in Paraguay, Panama, or Uruguay. So, okay. One important information is most citizens, for example, they need to have tax residency in some country. Unlike German citizens, for example, German citizens can have no tax residency if they travel abroad all the time. But this is not valid for Czechoslovak citizens, for example, or most other citizens, which means that even if you don't live in Czech Republic, for example, Slovakia or your country, you travel all the time, and if you don't have permanent residency or tax residency in the given country, your citizenship country, like the Czech Republic, they can usurp you. The Czech tax office can say, hey, it doesn't matter you don't live in the Czech Republic, it doesn't matter that you don't have any central interest in Czech Republic, but because you don't have your central interest in the other country, you don't have the tax office in the other country, you are not the tax resident of the other country, you will be our tax resident. So from this point of view, for all Czech and Slovak citizens, they have to be like a tax slaves. But what is still good is you are still free to choose your tax masters. So from this point of view, it is good to have like a tax residency in Panama or Paraguay, because you have a proof that you are the tax resident of some other country. Otherwise, you will become a tax resident of Czech Republic or Slovakia. You should also be aware that, for example, in Paraguay is a very capitalistic country, so you pay 0% on your foreign income, and for your local income, you pay only 10%. Also, VAT is not 10%. The South American country with the lowest taxation, because all other countries like Argentina or just is like a tax hell. Okay, offshore company. So the question is, okay, so residents of Paraguay, Panama, that's fine. Where should I create my company? And when we go to answer this question, we should focus that on our clients and where do you provide your services. So, for example, if you have clients in the European, you physically do business in the given countries, like physically it can be proven, you physically do business. Usually it doesn't make sense to use like a offshore company created out of the European Union to do this business. Because even if you have like an offshore company and you do physical business, for example, Czech Republic, you have to be registered at the local tax office. So from this point of view, you have to pay taxes in the country where your business is carried out. But even if you have European customers and you do business inside the European Union, you can still choose like a multiple good European countries or like doing business or creation of a company and accounting is more easy than in some other countries. I would definitely mention Estonia. One of the cool features in Estonia is that despite the fact that you have to pay 20% income tax, there is Estonian model of taxation, which means you have to pay taxes only on profit you want to take out of your company. So you want to pick up some profit from your company, you have to pay taxes on this profit. But if your profit stays in the company, you don't need to pay any taxes. So this is like pretty good. Then you have Cyprus. In Cyprus, there's also quite a lot of income tax, about 5 in the first time. One of the most cool feature of Cyprus is that Cyprus and Malta, these two countries, they signed double tax treaty agreement with Seychelles. So, for example, so that's why this combination of Seychelles company and Cyprus company issuing the invoices to, for example, Central European companies, so favorite. So thanks to when you have company in Cyprus, thanks to company in Seychelles, for example, you can even optimize your income in Cyprus. Then you have Bulgaria, which has 10% income tax, and maybe I should mention you that if you do business just inside the Czech Republic and you have profit under 2 million, it will be like a distributor will be valid from theater, which is up to 80,000 and some people is called like the juveniles. And in this situation, you can pay like a fixed and about around 2,000 or 3,000 euros, and then all taxes, all foreign between anything else. So Czech Republic can be also like a good country to do business and to save taxes, but this applies only when you do business inside the country. So now let's talk about the following situation. You have a customer in the European, but your business is done out of the European Union. Just for example, my case, because I'm probably all the time, I do business from different countries, not from the European Union. In this situation, usually it doesn't make sense to use a European company, and I strongly recommend you create in the US, you can pick states in the US or Wyoming or New Mexico. One of the biggest advantage of United States is that United States is the biggest tax hell if you're a US citizen or US resident, and the biggest tax paradise if you're a foreigner. So I don't recommend you US company if you have US customer or you're a US citizen, US resident. It's really bad. It's really good price. But if you do business strictly out of the US, you have non-US customers, you are non-US like a whole company, then having the US companies probably bad because United States signed double taxation treaty with all European countries, Panama, Czech Republic, these countries. So what this basically means, when you have a US company, you issue the invoice to Czech company. Czech company can use this invoice as an expense without any cost. And the cool thing about this US company is that if you own it as a non-US citizen or non-US resident, then and you have something what is called US LLC disregard. It means that your tax duty is delegated to the tax residency of the owners of this company. So if you're like a Paraguay tax resident owning the US company, it means that your tax duties are delegated through the mechanism which is called pass-through from your US company, Paraguay. And as I told you, Paraguay, physical person do not pay any taxes from foreign income. So in this situation, you don't even pay any taxes. But we have that in this case you cannot represent any other country except of Paraguay. Maybe I should also mention that setting a company in Paraguay is setting a company in the US is quite easy. The biggest problem is opening a bank account. No European bank will be willing to open a bank account for your US company just because of FATCA, because it means a lot of bureaucracy. But still, it is possible to open the bank account for a US company in the US. You can start it called Mercury accounts, for example. But your crypto people, especially, recommend you if it is possible to never use crypto services. Okay. Instead, if you have effort to create a US company, which is, by the way, also the cheapest company, there are other options. For example, you can create a company in Georgia. Georgia, you don't have to pay taxes, but these taxes are pretty low. You pay taxes from 1 to 5% profits, depending on many different circumstances. And also in Georgia, it's quite easy to open a bank account for a Georgian company. And another cool feature, also Georgia, like the United States, signed a double taxation treaty with almost all European companies. So if you don't like the US company, think about Georgian company, which is not like almost free, still we can save a lot of that. So the question is, as I told you, you should always ask the question, do I need a bank account or can I be crypto only? Because usually creating a company is easy process. The biggest problem is opening the corporate bank. For example, in Panama, opening the bank account for Panamanian company is almost impossible. Why I shouldn't use bank accounts? The reason is because banks are incredibly regulated, they lock and report everything. So basically, do not expect any privacy where you use bank accounts. So if you can afford it, so for example, I'm the owner of a company which is called Liberation Travels, and we are a crypto-only company. We don't accept any fiat, we don't have a bank account, and we don't want to have a bank account. So if it is possible, do not use a bank account because having a bank account is always price risk. If you're afraid of volatility of cryptocurrencies, you can use hedging or you can use stable coins. There are many stable coins over Ethereum, like USDT, USDC, DAI. So use these stable coins if you're afraid of volatility. And still, for example, in Czech Republic, there are many ways how you can pay all invoices of all your suppliers without using bank account. For example, simple comment is a nice example of how you can pay for your expenses in the Czech Republic or Europe, without using a bank account. Also, there are many ways, for example, how to pay your employees employee salaries and in other like. So, and one important information you should be aware, if you decide to operate your business without bank accounts, the number of countries you can do business from increases significantly. So then you are realizing, hey, I can use like a station company, I can use this company just because I don't want a bank account. Because for many countries, it's not possible. It's very complicated to open a bank account. Okay, so if you're willing to stay in crypto only, I recommend you, for example, if US Wyoming or US New Mexico company. So in this situation, you can enjoy benefits of triple taxation, especially when you own this company as a Paraguay tax resident, because this situation you pay exactly 0 taxes. Okay, but as I told you, you cannot interact with any US company. You cannot do business inside the US. You cannot have like a contract, US contract rules, because otherwise you should pay like a federal tax, and the regime is completely different for you. Okay, so bank account. Okay, but we have to admit there are still many situations when we need to have some bank account. So again, be aware that bank account is risky thing in terms of your privacy. But if you want to open a bank account, you should do it in the country which did not sign CRS. CRS means Common Reporting Standard. And Common Reporting Standard means it's like a Common Reporting Standard originally came from it was as an inspiration was FATCA. And FATCA basically means that all countries, almost all countries in the world signed FATCA, which means financial institutions in these countries that signed FATCA have to report all information about their US customers, like fiscal persons, US companies, to the IRS, American Tax Office. And CRS is something similar but for all people. So basically CRS is international agreement that where countries decide they agree they are going to exchange like a tax information about their citizens in tax residents. So for example, it means that when you open the bank account in Revolut, because Revolut physically is in European country which signs CRS, it means that in the end of the year they will report you to your tax office. So the tax office, where you have tax residency, they will know the information that you have the bank account in this country, and this is your balance, for example. But fortunately, there are still some countries which did not sign CRS. For example, Georgia did not sign CRS, despite the fact they are planning to do that from 2024, or Paraguay didn't sign CRS. So it means when you're a resident of Paraguay, for example, and you open a bank account in Paraguay doesn't report. This is really important to say. Also, despite the fact that US was the country that actively was pushing other countries to sign it, CRS never, US never signed a CRS. So if you're a European, back in ETHBrno². So you so to specific scenario for me and my most of customers like have. If you are permanent tax state, you don't have any out to send to the European Union, out of the US, if you should use centralized calculation, I recommend you not to use centralized calculation, but you have to use centralized calculation. You can use Binance because, for example, Binance supports foreign residents. If you need like a crypto card, you can use some crypto card that support foreign taxes. So it means that when you top up your example card and they inform your total fees taxes or foreign taxes, because in foreign taxes nobody will care about you because it's like a foreign income for you. Or you can also use like a Bank of Georgia, because Georgia is planning to sign CRS in 2024. You can also use Georgian centralized crypto exchanges for cryptocurrency-based Georgian crypto exchange that doesn't report anything to your tax resident, to your tax residence account. Okay, let's move to another part of my presentation. It's also expressed. If you're a European citizen, or you're a European resident, you have to be a customer of oligopoly of multiple health insurance companies. For example, Czech Republic or Slovakia, you have to pay your medical health insurance. But if you decide to give up your permanent residency or temporary residency in Europe, you can still live there and you can still have high quality of healthcare services just because you can use global international health insurance. For example, there are like different companies providing healthcare insurance, global healthcare insurance, digital nomads. It works in such a way that it has two parts. One part of this basically or your and then you have outpatient part of this insurance, which means it covers all your like a 1 day visit, some checks, for example, health checks in hospitals.
Hey, Pavel, we just have a few more minutes left. Just a fair warning, because we have to go to the next talk soon.
Yeah, can you tell me how many minutes do I have?
4 more minutes. Just under 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm just finishing my presentation, no problem. So then the question is mobile operator. What you should solve is to have the best and cheapest global mobile operator when you talk about for example, I use this service which is called PocketFi. Thanks to PocketFi, I have connection in all countries of the world for $3 per gigabyte. If you're a US resident or stay in the US most of your time, you can use Google. If you're a foreign resident, I recommend you contact with Plano. This for most countries, including Czech Republic, Germany, Western Europe, where it's possible to have 50 gigabytes in data load, 23 euros. This is really good deal. If you're more paranoid, you can use Sanity, which is like a privacy ever version of anonymous SIM card. I sort of recommend you Sanity. The last thing is place where you want to be. This is very subjective because, for example, I prefer personal freedom, so no censorship, no restriction, minimal traffic notices. But this is so. For example, I like Uruguay, which is like most free countries I never visited. Then the price is important. Venezuela has a maybe street, but not that place where you want to live. And what information is enjoy the tax benefits. I mentioned before, you cannot live in any country for more than 6 months. Okay? And the last one is digital assets. Where you want to be flexible, and you cannot have like a big thing like a big property or a golf, for example, because it's really difficult to take it with you, to transfer it. I'm like a big farmer, so I don't need any mobile assets. But the only thing what I use is crypto. You should be also aware that when you treat the stakes, you have gold, you have nothing in your bank, all these can be taken from you or staked, or it can develop greatly by inflation. So cryptocurrency is essential, it's critical, super important to talk about that. I use like hardware wallets with the hidden wallets. So for example, it means it is dangerous countries like Salvador or Honduras. If I'm wrong, or if someone tries to use force coercion against me, I can just reveal part of my wallet, the book wallet. So this is like a really good recommendation with part of the European wallets. And my last recommendation is have only as much savings as you're willing to use. Even now, when the crypto is low, I still can recommend you for price. And that's all. Maybe it's kind of like it's not for everybody, but if you're willing to be global and flexible and love freedom, this can be definitely the best way to think through it. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, Pavel, very much. Now, yeah, we have probably just time for one question. Does anyone have a question? Okay, we got one over here.
Hello. Do you believe in urgent emergence of decentralized citizenship based on blockchain as soon as possible, considering the current events happening in the Eastern Bloc, and how we can come together as Web3 professionals to support decentralized passports of some kind creation? Any links to further research would be highly appreciated. Thank you.
Like it seems like the question was
Looks like we're having some connection problems.
Okay, so you understood correctly. Yes, I think that I believe in Web3 technology, and I think can replace many aspects of government and also many aspects of identity we have now, like citizenship, for example, residencies. But still, regarding these aspects like citizenship and residency, government we have as part of it. So I think technology is not bad. We just need like a global acceptance. We just need that government will be willing to accept that this technology will replace some of the aspects, let's say, register, for example, citizens or cadastre register, properties, and so on. So yes, I believe in Web3, but I think to replace for the Web3 replace the existing government structures, it will take some time, and I'm not really sure if the existing government will be willing to accept it in the following years. Maybe just we need to wait.
All right. All right, thank you, Pavel.